The following video was recorded in November 2018 at a Dimicator training session. It has been available on my Patreon pages ever since. It reflects our current take on 133's first play, that is half shield versus first ward. We are constantly reassessing our interpretation, so we have refined a number of aspects ever since that video was recorded, and we're going to present to you our latest ideas in upcoming videos. Some viewers have noticed that we have changed some of our footwork, or some crucial aspects of our footwork, and we are by now indeed in full agreement with fellow instructor and researcher Dave Rawlings, who has been a strong proponent for circular footwork, for cross-stepping for a number of years. We now believe that this kind of cross-stepping is most appropriate for historical sword and shield combat, and if you're interested in historical evidence for this, then please refer to my article, which I have linked to below. In terms of interpretation, cross-stepping has in fact been proposed by Stephen Hand as early as 2003. Thank you very much for your interest and in particular for your support via Patreon. It does make a huge difference. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is about mutatio gladii, which is one of the most complex techniques in the book, and also one of the most hotly debated. Okay, so far we were doing this, so assuming I am in first ward, I fall under sword and shield, and in my attempt to go over his blade so that if I managed to do that, I could enter and thrust at him in another tempo. So while I'm doing this, I'm usually being overbound with half shield as not fallen asleep. Sorry. And then, of course, this would usually end with a shield strike. Boom. So, in order to avoid to be shield struck, I should do a mutatio gladii if he does not step. Yeah? Because if he counterbinds and steps, then I'm advised by the author of the book I should do a shield strike myself. Right, so mutatio gladii. Now mutatio gladii means change of the sword, and this is because first I'm overbound, and after my mutatio gladii, I'm the overbinder. So I was inferior, now I'm superior. And what we see in the book is this. So it's an action that we think may be folded down. Yeah, I've been talking about this before. Ingo Petri suggested that in the book we may sometimes see more than one perspective. And Cornelius also said that as a rule of thumb, the overbound blade is always turned to the viewer.
Oh, the overbinding blade. So
the overbinding
blade that lies on top is closer to the one who looks at the image, one could say.
Okay, so this means that the action that we see here, that I have bound against this blade and now I'm superior, may also be something that is folded up much further. And today we folded it up to here. Okay, so our mutatio has now become extremely short. So when I'm being overbound and I respond to it with a change of the sword, with mutatio to be followed by the nuke, it now looks something like this. So it's super short. Okay, so you see that my point is actually high up when I counterbind. And I am the overbinder here. Note also that my arms are crossed. Do you see that? This is something that when we do free play, oftentimes when we did the old mutatius and you do a freeze frame, you see something like that. So I was always wondering why the arms should be crossed, but if it's something like this, and then with to finalize the action, I usually take a falling step, so I counterpunch to a falling step, and then there's this wide gap, the separation of his arms where I can strike. So I do it one more time, and then we can expand on. I'm sorry. It's the end of the training, so I'm pretty brain dead. Okay, so basically this is the new insight. The mutatio is much shorter.
So a few details concerning footwork. We've become very precise about when we do our, let's say, when we place the first foot of a step and when the second and what happens in between. And to cut it short, what we are doing now here is the following. So as soon as we have contact and basically now new actions or new tempi start, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get over here, as Roland showed.
Yeah. So over my place, he's trying to get on top.
And as you can see from the side, okay, now you can see my blade, it makes sense. So, concerning the illustration convention. So now if you see my blade in front, it makes sense that this blade is on top. Just
okay, so as a viewer, as the reader of the book, if you see the front blade not being crossed by another blade, that may be a convention telling you the blade that is unobstructed by another one in plain sight is the overbinding blade. But it may also be that this is a situation like so. So it could be something like this, okay, but it would be shown in the book in such a fashion that you clearly can see which blade is superior and which is inferior, right?
Yeah. Or sometimes maybe if it's not so clear, then people change sides usually, something you might have noticed when you're browsing on the degree. So that's one hypothesis we're playing with nowadays. So what I'm doing is
I do half sheet.
You're half sheet, okay. So blade initiates the first thing, and now I initiate the first part of the flanking step that Roland showed earlier. So I'm placing this foot here, and this is very gentle, so I'm not shifting my balance here, so this is very gentle.
Yeah, ideally I don't see his body moving. This is when I would overbind.
Yeah. Because now we have the overbind, and now in the course of my step I'm doing the mutatio, and I'm completing the action by placing the second foot. And now here I'm fully in control. I have the weapons in such a way that it's pretty hard for him to do like a counter mutatio or something. So he would have to go really low, and this would be enough time for me to attack him. But when we're saying true to the book, so now I'm pursuing in another tempo. So I would here again enter with a step, push his blade aside briefly and exploit this opening and finish with my second foot.
This is a huge impact. This really makes the blade go down. It's something a lot of people have been struggling with, to get an impact that actually results in separating the hands, as it says in the book.
And so, of course, we take two steps now for the mutatio glavi and the nuken, but this means that every part of the action is sort of stabilized. So I don't have the problem that I have like a transitioning phase and I have to do a lot of things simultaneously and thus creating a long tempo which my opponent can counter. But everything here is stabilized. So if something goes wrong in between, I'm perfectly fine. When my setup is complete, I got my protection, and I'm stable concerning my foot and my posture. So we do it again.
He can also respond to everything that I do. So that means that if somebody's not fighting properly, like a good 133 disciple, then he can still respond to it. So if somebody does suicidal stuff or so, you will not fall into that trap if you move this way. So if I'm too eager to go forward to score, and this point here, now I was rushing in, but it doesn't do me no good. And this is all because he's not rushing things, he's keeping it safe and takes his time and only does a strike to finish the fight when he's able to consecutively do so.
Okay. So we do it again in a more or less fluid motion.
Once again.
And once more. Yeah. Okay, one final note. So this is partially based on the idea that our overbind is not as low anymore as it was like a year ago. So you will see that the Roland's blade barely moves, but still he's on top. And I can exploit that and be pretty high with my weapons as well, because he's not falling down.
Yeah. See, and my body, even though I did take a step that was like the antenna of a bug, feeling and sensing my weight, my upper body did not actually get any closer towards him. I overbound, but you see I'm still where I am, which means I did not succeed to actually lock him out, which means he can do the change shoe and the knock-in. If I do lock him out, I have to take a step, and when I do take this step, he's advised in the book to do a shield strike himself. So he's just simply trying to do his mutatio, and in the process, when he sees that the mutatio does not work, that's when it becomes dreadful durchgeführt. The same technique from the other side. Okay. If I want to be successful with my shield strike, I have to use the same strategy. So that means once I make contact, you will see my first leg moving, but my body should remain where it is. And only then, when I feel it's safe, that's when my weapons shift in, and I conclude the action with a blow and the final step. So just for completion, we're going to take a look at that one too. Okay, once more from the other side. Oh, by the way, the counter against the new mutatio actually makes all the follow-up techniques a lot easier and more logical too. So when he cannot do his mutatio gladi because I'm stepping, then he's advised to do his tread through. So here comes his tread through, but do it. Okay? And my counter against this that is shown in the book, that is quite puzzling too, is to strike to his hand. So you see, I get his exposed hand, and in the book you would have to make clear that his blade is actually no threat to me, so it's folded back. So let's look at it again. So I would get his blade when he's in the process of striking this triangle. Okay, I think we've got everything. There's more. Anything you want to add?
I mean, we could try the counter to the actual mutatio, which happens early. So there's another option that could be.
Okay, so I do the mutatio and you counter my
mutatio. You're doing the mutatio and I'm countering it. Which I can do because, again, my following after the overbind is a careful one. So I'm not falling forward. So I'm doing it wrong now. Doing it wrong overbind.
So I didn't do mutatio.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm not doing is something like this. It's just I'm very early committing to an action which he can easily counter. So I'm very careful. And this means if he does a mutatio in between while I'm taking a step, I can react to that before I finish or complete this step, which might look something like this. And there we are. That's pretty smooth.
Yeah,
what's more? Yeah.
Okay, but now I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, now it's pretty. Except for wrestling.
Oh, okay, yeah. We'll go to wrestling now.
This will come later.
I'm really knackered. Thank you very much. See you next time. See you in Berlin.